There he is, the founder, Henry Heinz. Heinz Company. It says by the time of his death in 1919, H.J. Heinz Company had grown into one of the largest food processing businesses in the nation, selling its condiments, sauces, pickles, and preserves all over the world. The Heinz recipe for success included the following ingredients: a growing market for prepared foods, an innovative spirit, a wide variety of products, commitment to quality, abundant and creative advertising, and enterprising sales techniques. This guy was an absolute genius, innovating food production because of the German food methods of preservation, pickling, putting stuff in jars. Food safety, big innovator of the FDA. Basically, helped the founding of the Food Drug Administration, which helped early on in the Teddy Roosevelt administration to preserve food and make it safe for consumption and preservation. A true genius. And also, let's not forget that he was born and raised for a couple years in the south side of Pittsburgh, also known as Birmingham Borough. And my ancestors, the Germans in south side, worked and lived next to Henry Heinz's parents and worked together in the glass blowing mills in the 1840s, 50s, basically the 1840s and 50s before the Civil War. Heinz 57. So this is what is a staple innovation in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is ketchup. Ketchup is so amazing. Heinz ketchup is the best. I'm not joking at all when I say that this is one of the best food creations in the world, without a doubt. The Heinz pickle, of course, yins know how it is. It says Heinz sells more than 650 million bottles of ketchup every year. Look how cool that is. That's actually a pretty cool piece of art right there.
That's really neat.
You know that people fought tooth and nail to get into the Heinz Company to work for them because of how cleanly and friendly and professional the place was. Like, it was so innovative at the time because, companies treated their employees like garbage back in the day. But Heinz didn't believe in, doing that.
I was looking here how many things I remember as a kid.
Look at that.
Some things, not a lot, but
So
some.
some of the signage and stuff
Yeah.
from back in the day.
The other one I remember is the glass.
It says since 1869, the Heinz Company has both reflected and shaped foodways in the United States. The housewife, the grocer, and the restaurant owner all served as consumers and purveyors of Heinz goods, and the company evolved to meet the changing needs. Yeah, but he innovated, like I said, food preservation and helped create the FDA. Oh, yeah.
Spaghetti. You would actually eat it in the can.
This is neat. 1935. By the way. Look at all the ball.
That's when I was over here before. I didn't know he did prunes, jelly. I know he tried to do soup, but when Campbell's came out with soup, Heinz then jumped on it, but it never took off.
He's a genius.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
guy-
remember a few things here. Little beef steaks.
The guy was a genius.
It's interesting. Now this, I don't know any of this. It's more a few of those.
Of course. This is like the 1800s.
Yeah.
It says the names of more than 800 different ketchups produced in this country before 1915 have been found. Few of those companies survive today, and only one, Heinz, is known around the world. A creative visionary founder, H.J. Heinz, charted the course that transformed his local pickling business into a global company that now serves customers in 200 countries on 6 continents. 200 countries. Heinz, a man who carried both a tape measure and a small notebook in his pocket, saw the world in a unique way. So I recognize all these except for that green ketchup right there. It's weird. I recognize that. I don't know what that is. I've maybe seen that. These ketchup packets are sick. And I recognize that too, the bottle. Always have the bottle of Heinz ketchup.
Grandma Mason Papa John's was beautiful, but there was flowers and bushes and blah, blah, blah. Grandma Dorsey's was very
Look at the old lawnmower.
minimalistic.
Look at the lawnmower.
Yeah, that Papa used that.
Papa used that?
Papa used to cut the grass. Your Papa in the backyard.
He had one of those.
Yes.
Wow.
pushed it. And that's
we can go in. You can go
I
in.
think I stood on it.
You can go in the house in the kitchen. You probably would recognize all kinds of.
Patch on it though. It caught the grass while we had it.
Interstate Pennsylvania 76. Here. This is the look at the TV. That's the 1950s TV.
Mr. and Mrs. Rabinick had something just like that.
Is this what you
Mr.
recognize?
and Mrs. Rabinick had a phone like that. We had lamps like that.
Mhm.
Stand. Oh, we had stands like a couple. That's still something like that. So I'm
Yep.
up a sunroom to help
Yep.
the stereo. But this Mr. and Mrs. Rabinick had this.
Yep, that was a stereo. That was a stereo and a TV.
That's awesome, and it still works. Look at that.
Yeah.
How did they get it to work like
You
that?
got the tubes for it.
Wow. Look how little that screen is, but back in the day, that was
Oh, we
probably
had Grandma May had those roller
crazy.
skates.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, man. Huge staple in the burg, know what I'm saying? King Friday. Look at this. Is this, do you think this is the original set?
I believe it is.
Like this is original from the show. Because WQED and, Pittsburgh.
Let's make the most of this.
Oh, geez. Colin, what do you think about Mr. Rogers?
Great, dude. I love it.
Look at this. That's the door that he would come out of and then sit down and take off his shoes and put on his slippers, remember? In the show? That's his shoes. That's Mr. Rogers' shoes right there.
Looks like my shoes a little bit.
Yeah. That's him taking his shoes off. Isn't that neat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's really cool. Look at all the the puppets.
These two are little.
They're older.
They're a little creepy.
That's the entire.
Daniel Tiger.
Creepy when I watched it.
Look at the cans. Look at
Oh
the
yeah, this reminds me of stuff we have. You
Bobs.
have some of these, look.
yeah, a couple of them. They were like. So this floor is about the clash of empires, about the French and Indian War between the British, French, and Indian fighting each other for the control of the American colonies at the time, or North America. So as you can see down here, you can see where the three rivers meet. So the point, I think, is right here. So they got Lake Erie. So this is modern day Pennsylvania. This was the core of the epicenter of the clash between the French and the British empires. Modern day Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the essential parts. Right here, we have Robert Dinwiddie, governor of the colony of Virginia. My ancestors on my mother's side of the family, that was their governor. Governor Dinwiddie, it says that this is from 1760 to 1765. Scottish merchant Robert Dinwiddie served as Virginia's lieutenant governor from 1751 to 1758. A strong supporter of extending British control into the North American interior, Dinwiddie took the lead in countering French moves in the Ohio country. So Dinwiddie was the lieutenant governor because at the time the acting governor was probably in the mainland of England. So he was the man on the ground, the boots on the ground. Virginia's history is essential for my mother's colonial ancestors because my mother's Virginia ancestors served or lived and served for Virginia in the British Army since the 1600s. So it says here, by the honorary Robert Dinwiddie Esquire, His Majesty's Lieutenant Governor and Commander of the Chief of this Dominion, a proclamation. Governor Dinwiddie basically told a 22-year-old George Washington to come up here into the southwestern Pennsylvania region to see what the French were doing, to basically occupy and conquer this region for the British Empire. This is Fort Necessity out here in southwestern Pennsylvania. This is where George Washington basically retreated after the Battle of Drummondville Glen, when the British forces retreated to Fort Necessity and were completely defeated by French forces. This was on July 3rd, 1754. And this was ironic as July 4th, 1776 is when America declared independence on the British crown. This is what the fortification would have looked like at the Battle Fort Necessity how thick the pieces of wood were right here. So as you can see, it's probably about 6 to 7 inches thick. And we have holes where the muskets would be positioned out when they were firing. And the French were all around this tree line right here in the trees. But the problem was during the battle, it was raining, torrential rain. So the British were here in their fortifications, and the powder was raining all over their gunpowder. Since they had flintlock muskets, the powder would be wet. So that's why the British were completely defeated by the French forces. As you can see right here, we have a British redcoat. George Washington, sorry about that. This is George Washington himself. This is the defeat at the Great Meadows, July 3rd, 1754. And as you can see here, we have the translation in Francais. So that's what George Washington would have looked like when he was about 22 years old, the embarrassing defeat. But after the Battle of Fort Necessity, after his defeat, you had the battle where General Braddock was shot, where Braddock, the year after in 1755, sent the British forces over to occupy the city of Pittsburgh. And as you can see, French and Indian forces completely obliterated the British and repelled them from the Three Rivers region of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and modern-day Braddock, Pennsylvania, right next to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As we can see right here, we have a British soldier, a Hungarian redcoat at Braddock's defeat, July 9, 1755. So this is a depiction of the uniform of the depiction of a British Allied soldier fighting in the French and Indian War. And as we can see here, what is this? Victory at the Monongahela. Braddock's army faced a force of 36 officers and 72 regular soldiers of the colony troops, 146 Canadian militia, and 736 Indian fighters, mostly from the nations of the Great Lakes, the Canadas. So this is where, I'm assuming, the ambush, the British column as it forded the Monongahela River at Turtle Creek. These Allied fighters arrived too late. So this is like a model of what that would have looked like. Completely amazing. And as you can see, this is the Monongahela River, I think. Very shallow. And then Turtle Creek splinters off. So that's Turtle Creek, I think. And that's the Monongahela River. Look how shallow it is. The men could literally walk in it at the time. That's what it would have looked like when they were cutting trees down, Braddock's army. And this is a depiction of a French soldier. Massachusetts soldier at Lake George, 1756. And over here, well, maybe British. Maybe he is British. I don't know. Maybe French.
It's a French uniform.
Oh, they got a gender neutral bathroom. Dang. I don't identify as any gender. Honor and defeat. An officer of the Royal Roussillon Regiment at Montreal, September 7th, 1760. So that's a sign of defeat. These artillery pieces right here were cannons from the Allegheny Arsenal Monument in Pittsburgh. Dating to the time of the French and Indian War, these cannons were later captured from the British Army by the Americans at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777. But on these barrels, you'll see that L in the middle of the barrel represents Sir John Ligonier, the British head of ordnance and the namesake of Fort Ligonier, which is in southwestern Pennsylvania. The dates 1755 and 1761 are the years the cannons were cast. The crest GR2 stands for George Rex, or King George II of England, and GR3 stands for King George III. So as you can see, we have GR. I think it's King George Rex. This might be the second, King George II. And then you have L representing Sir John Ligonier. It's pretty amazing these were captured by the Americans. These were from the French and Indian War, though. They're dated. So as you can see, you have the crest of the crown right here. Awesome. Just completely awesome, because my ancestors fought on both sides. You know what I mean? My ancestors on my mom's side were both British and American colonial. So it's amazing that these pieces of history represent not only my British ancestors, but also my American ancestors. And I'm very proud to be British and American at the same time, because my mom's ancestors were British. I'm an American. My mom's American. My dad, we're all Americans. But this is big depictions of American and British history intertwining. Amazing pieces of artwork in military history.